Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm sorry it's been a while. It's been a bit of a dead channel for a while. I've had some personal things going on, so I've not been able to make any videos. Some of you knew that beforehand, but I am back, at least for the time being anyway. And I wanted to start by giving a couple of thanks out to people. Just before I made the last video, Paddy of Paddy's Potato Peelers mentioned me on his channel, which pushed the subscriber numbers up, and I've been feeling guilty ever since because those people joined the channel and I've not made any new content. So thank you, Paddy, for that, and thank you to all the people that have stuck with me while I've not been making videos, and to the new people that have joined. It's nice to have you on the channel. I still have quite a few knives left to review that are sitting in my drawer, and then we will see where we go from there. So what I wanted to show you today, it's not a new knife by any stretch. It's been around for a while, but it comes in a couple of iterations. This one is the s90v, and it's really the blade that makes this such a special knife. They also do this in a 14C28 version, which I have knives in 14C28. It's a good Sandvik steel, but this one is the daddy of the model. So starting off with the handle. Handle is G10, two fairly thick slabs of G10. It looks initially like there are no metal liners, but in fact there are. They are nested within that G10. Has a good solid feel about it. There's nothing flimsy, no flex in the handle. There's also nothing particularly special about it, and I think that kind of sums up this knife. It is quite utilitarian. It is made for a purpose, which it does very well. There's nothing flashy about this, I wouldn't say. The hardware is nicely flush with the G10. That's great, nothing to complain about there. Obviously this one sits proud. The clip itself, they've obviously listened to user feedback, because the Manly Wasp used to have Manly written down the clip, which wasn't to everybody's taste, and they have replaced that with a subtle logo with a nice stone washed hard wearing finish. The clip itself is very deep carry as they come, and is reversible to the other side. Obviously you have a blanking plate here. You could remove that and flip the clip to the other side if that is your preference. But there's nothing really else to talk about with the handle. It's a full grip. I can get 4 fingers over that handle, gorilla grip it quite easily. It's about as big as they get for UK legal slip joints. Obviously we're restricted to a sub 3-inch blade if you're going to carry it every day. I think with this, the thing about this knife that makes it special is the blade material. It's s90v. It's a very, very hard steel. I would say up there, if not better than M390 for edge retention, albeit probably slightly harder to sharpen. So people have told me. I've not had to sharpen this one yet. I've owned it for months. I've taken it away on holiday with me as my only knife. And it's in my rotation daily, and I've not had to sharpen it. It still slices through receipt paper perfectly easily with the factory edge. That's how hard this steel is. I mean, obviously when you get to that kind of hardness level with the steel, it's going to be harder and harder to sharpen. The process is still the same, but it will take a lot longer, and you're going to use more of your stones or whatever you're using to sharpen it to remove that material and get it back to a working edge. And that's the trade-off for having, really high levels of edge retention. It's a very hard steel, therefore harder to sharpen. The blade itself is sub 3 inches. It's a full flat grind, so it's pretty slicey, but there's a decent amount of thickness to the blade. And again, I come back to this idea, this just feels like a utilitarian knife to me. This is probably the most hard use UK legal everyday slip joint that I have, and there's a number of reasons for that. The blade thickness is thick enough. The back spring is pretty stiff, but you don't just get a half stop. Let me show you this. You get 1, 2, 3 positions and then open. And that last little bit is, you've got to have some strength in your hands to be able to do that one-handed. So I don't have any fear, although this doesn't have a finger choil, of this closing on my fingers. You will notice on this I've put a thumb stud on. That does not come as standard. When you buy it, it is a two-hand opening knife, but providing you have enough strength in your hands, and this is the hardest knife I have to open one-handed, you can do it. But if you do that multiple times every day, that is going to start wearing on the end of your thumb. There's a lot of strength in that back spring, but that's part of the reason why I wouldn't have any qualms if I was doing more outdoor activities and perhaps I wanted to make feather sticks with my everyday knife, or doing some of that harder use work. I would take this for the reasons. I'm not going to worry about the G10 handle. It's pretty hard wearing. It feels perfectly strong enough. The strength between the back spring and the blade gives me confidence. And then you have that s90v blade, which is just going to keep on going forever, pretty much, until you need to sharpen it again. So you're not going to find that partway through the day it suddenly blunts and that's the end of your knife until you can get home and sharpen it again. This will go forever. It's a really, really hard steel, probably the hardest that I own out of all of my knives. S90v, I would have said. And that's what's weird about this. It's kind of it's a Ferrari engine in a Mondeo body, I would have said. You've got all the performance of that S90v blade, but it's in a fairly basic body that you're not going to worry about scratching or damaging or losing some of its value. This is a hard use knife. I can thoroughly recommend it. If you have weak hands or no strength in your thumb, be warned, it is very difficult to open one-handed, but I can just about manage it with this. So there it is. Not new to anybody, been out for a long time, but in this iteration I think it's worth a mention, because, as I say, this is probably the hardest use UK legal everyday slip joint that I own. Before I sign off, I just wanted to highlight somebody in my family who is making hanks for the first time. I think there's a very well-known brand out there. I won't mention the name. And when we saw that, she loves sewing, so she came up with the idea of creating these hanks for the UK market. The ones that I have are all in tweed, which I like, but she does do lots of cotton patterns on top. So the name of the company is Power Hanks. They are all microfiber on the back, which is super absorbent. It's very soft. It's the same stuff that you would get when you buy a travel towel. So it's super absorbent on the back. And then on these ones, you have tweed on the front and all of this embroidery round the edge. She makes no two the same. So every one that people buy is a one of one. You won't see another one with exactly the same stitching or colour or what have you, which I think is a nice touch. I will put a link to her hanks in the description box below. I would say check it out. The company is Power Hanks. She's on Etsy. She's just starting out, but she seems to be getting really good reviews so far. So I hope many of my subscribers are still there to watch this. I will try and endeavour to make videos on a more regular basis now for as long as I have knives to review. Just before I go, I'll give you a quick size comparison of that Manly Wasp. Got the Kaiser Zip Slip, about the same size blade, and the Boca Plus XS. It's quite a nice demonstration actually of knives that size as a step up in price range. I mean, me particularly, I don't use hard use my knives on a day-to-day basis, so I can get by with something like 9CR13, this whole knife, G10 again, slightly lesser blade steel, but 42 quid. You've got the Kaiser zip slip at, I think it was about 60, with s90v steel, perfect for me, G10 scales, and then this one at 70, again G10 scales, but you've got the s90v blade. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, it's good value for money. You're only talking about £10 difference between these two, but the step up from N690 to S90V is huge. So if you hard use your knives every day, perhaps you're shaving wood or what have you, something that's going to blunt your knife quickly, I would highly recommend one of those as your everyday carry. Sorry again to my subscribers, and welcome to all the new people. I will get a new video out to you soon. Ciao, ciao.